panel is ready. I would start on 3, 2, 1. This house prepared the Keynesian by the Heineken on the economy of the country for a lot of reasons. I would talking about two main reasons, about the economic one and about the international between the countries and about the country's policy. Before of this, I want just to explain that Keynesians is the way, this is a way when the country use a lot of, excuse me, Heineken is a way the country has a lot of do a lot of things like take loans and to waste a lot of money for most important purposes of the country. And the Keynesian is when the country don't do these things and it's preferred that personal companies would do these things. So about the first point, the economy, yes.
Isn't it the opposite, that Keynesian policies basically demand participation of the government, while Heineken demand like the laissez-faire and less participation of the government?
Yeah, we prefer the Keynesians by Heinekens. No. Excuse me, the Heinekens by the Keynesians. Okay, so about the damage of the country economy. The first thing I have to say that it would be do a lot of big damage on the economy because of the old projects that the country would wanted to do would be not done on the well way. Because of when the government doing something, it's done on the bad well because of for example, there is a lot of bureaucracy. This is something that the government say. It's one from a lot of things that she is responsible on them, and this not have a personal priority. There is the people who responsible on them. They are just sitting on the offices. It's not the a company that can lose the whole money and they would lose their job. It's just some project on their day and they don't really care about it. So they don't have the motivation to do it on the best way. They hadn't have a good communication watch with other because it's just one government thing. A lot of people who are working together, not people that know each other and working for one purpose. So before of all these reasons, the project take a lot of time and not done well, like one company that doing its all. The second thing about the economy is that when the country take the whole money that should go to the main important purposes, it's take money for from things like welfare, like education, like hospitals, and all things that needed budget more than other things. Things like to build houses and things like that. It's something that any company can do, and she would it can do it well that from the government, because they would this isn't a monopoly. This on any company wanted to do this on the best way, because this is would be a budget. Yes, before we'll closing.
You seem to be implying that the Keynesian policies is taking money away from things such as healthcare. Healthcare is a form of infrastructure, and within the information slide, it literally states that Keynesian economic policy puts more money into infrastructure.
Yes, but you have which you have to prefer on each purposes to put him. But if you had a choice between two another things, you can to choose some of the money why to do with this. And when you prefer to put this on something that company can save better, you just lose money that can go to another thing. So I would talking about the politics and international benefits. So if some country wanted to do anything on herself, she would have to take a lot of loans. Why it's something bad? From the beginning, country that have the minus because of the loans, it's a country that people from another countries wouldn't have to put money on the project to this country, because it's a country that you can't to care about you can't know that she would have money on the long term. And because another thing that if you take loans any time countries wouldn't want to give you a loans, you would have a big really problem when you would need the loans and you wouldn't get one. For example, the COVID, on the time of COVID, a lot of countries were in a really big problem. For the countries who had COVID on the worst case, they would need loans more from another. And if the country just taking loans on any time that she needed and not to think about it, she would be in a really big problem when she would be. And when another thing that it's very important, it's the stability of the politics and all and the society of the country. When the government doing anything, this is a very big backlash to the citizens of the country, because the whole problems, the citizens just doing that, the problem is on the country. And there is a lot of examples. For example, the transport. If there is not a good transport on the country or on the transport just on the center of the country, or there isn't enough apartments on the country, there are the first thing that would be a discussion on by the citizens. And if the companies doing this, it's something that, okay, you can just go to another company and it would done well, more less expensive and faster. And the countries had a lot of problems, like not apartments. So because of the economic side and because of the stability of the country, I please you propose.
I thank the Prime Minister for that speech and invite the leader of the opposition to.
Okay, first I'm going to react to what we just heard. So we think that bureaucracy and government intervention is like in every corporation or organization. People want to be better, people want to be best, people have bonuses, people get promoted. So I think we reject the premises that people won't be better because they taking out governmental money. Okay, so I'm going to start with a little bit framing, and then I'm going to talk about my main point, which is that the more intervention the government make, the more opportunities it creates. So what is a Keynesian economic? It's a macro theory that emphasize how important it is that government will strongly interact, strongly help, strongly initiative, and put more money in progress of the country. So it will develop more, growth. How does growth look like? Growth look like people with more jobs, people with more good jobs, more developed high-tech, more developed infrastructure, more developed farming, and so more developed people with more developed education. And governmental intervention can help create and develop more opportunities. How does it look? So one, it can develop like infrastructures like roads that can lead more food, that can lead more clothes, etc., etc. Two, it can help develop more less infrastructured and less developed regions in the country. Like in Israel, develop the desert, develop the north, which have a massive potential, and with the right money and development, it can cause a lot of good effect. Third, it can develop opportunities. I will going to over this, but I think that it will encourage growth. It can make for the long run for the government more incomes. Yeah, second.
Don't you think that stimulus plans planned in the short term to stabilize the economy can be very wasteful due to the haste they are developed?
Okay, so I think that intervention of government is being done with lots of thinking and lots of progress in being done, and over time it can create more opportunities. So this is the second point I'm going to talk about, like the second opportunities it can create more opportunities for more people. Which kind of people? So the intervention will be also like infrastructure, but also money on education, on research institutions, on development institutions, and technology. So who can it help for? One, people who come from lower side of the society that aren't always given the right education, and with more money that the government will put, the more education and good education can be. More computers to classes, more good teachers, more help, more opportunities in the future. These kind of people can get more direction to the future. These kind of people can after help and overachieve. No, I won't take anything. And achieve new goals and new initiative to the country. These kind of people can, at the end, contribute even more, and if given their opportunities, they can help. So why this is so important? One, wait, I will take a second before closing. Yeah.
When a private
First,
company,
yeah.
when a private company employs workers, when is a similar amount of jobs with more incentive for workers because of the competition.
Okay, so government also wants to be, she doesn't want to lose money, yes? She wants to have valuable implications to the future. She wants to have more impact. She wants to help her people. The private company won't necessarily want to help the people that work for her. She wants to raise more money. She wants to, and okay, she wants to raise more money, but here we get people who are getting better, and at the end, and that's what I was going to say, that why is that so important? People will get more opportunities, and they will be more, after a while, there will be more people who will get more money to the country. Two, there will be more people with more jobs that will provide for more families, that will raise kids with more opportunities for the future, and so go on. And these kind of people will be able to go to the supermarket and to the mall and to fly, and this will eventually grow the economy. So to sum it up, we prefer the Keynesian economy because it gives more opportunities to more infrastructure, more jobs, and more money to different kind of people who will eventually grow the economy. Thank you.
I think the speaker for that final speech and invite the Deputy Prime Minister to the floor.
Thank you. Where is it? Here. All right, is the panel ready? I will start in 3, 2, 1. All right. As we have heard now that why the opposition believes that the government intervention in the economy will provide stability, will provide more infrastructure and more jobs and greater development, but they have yet to show an explanation of why the government has to be the one to do this. Because if the government if this place is so important and it will provide such economic value, will be of interest to private companies to do it too. If a piece of land is arable and it's very nice to build in, and it's and it will boost the economy overall to do it, wouldn't I want to be the company that owns the buildings in that town? Why would I want the government to build it? It's like, and the government inherently has massive inefficiencies that no person or organization can ever be run enough, simply because of the difference between a public and a private institution. Before I return, I want to respond to a rebuke that POI that was earlier, is that the idea that healthcare is infrastructure. Healthcare is infrastructure, but it's not infrastructure, but only in the sense that anything is infrastructure. The difference between infrastructure that government needs to build and infrastructure that are the rest. Roads are built by private corporations all the time. The thing is, there is lots of healthcare facilities and types of healthcare, like affordable healthcare that doesn't, an MRI machine that is subsidized, like a building that is not meant to be for profit, is something that a government has to do, that even a private corporation could do, but they won't do because they'll charge money, and you'll end up in a situation like in the United States, with everything is private. So I'll have some more rebuttals interspersed, but I'll get to my two main points. Is one, that fiscal responsibility as a government, and two, the dangers of deficit spending. Look, a government that is more fiscal, what does it mean for a government to be fiscally responsible? We have to remember that government is not a corporation. Their job isn't at the end of the year to say, okay, the budget was less than the amount of taxes we made this year. This is a success. No, the government his job is to spend the money that it's raised, and to only keep taxes at the level that is necessary in order to achieve all its goals, because too many taxes stifle the economy. So what happens with this? If they spend too much money on infrastructure that isn't 100% necessary to be built by the government, and it's just done because a private corporation could do that, even unsubsidized, it would be a cause for to denounce it as a waste of money. Why? Because if a private corporation could do it, that's money that the infrastructure would have existed anyway, the economic growth would have existed anyway, and the taxes raised from the original economic growth, which overall returns to the government, would have been the same. But now the government has less money or is in deeper debt to fund that project, and the project took longer. Why is that? Why is government infrastructure, which is a rebuke to the first opposition, why is government so inefficient? My partner explained it, and I will expand a bit on it. It's the idea that governments are stable, incredibly stable. Everyone knows that if a government builds a rail station or a rail line, and it goes massively over budget, like 3 times, or it gets delayed by a decade, the government ain't going to collapse. Let's be real. This isn't by government, but it will be way more expensive than it needs to be, which is a burden. It is going to be take way longer than it needs to be, which is which ranges from inconvenience to life-changing, depending on if a person chooses to move to a place or another, or start a company, which is the entire rationale way behind building infrastructure in the first place, which a private company would do because they are also interested in capturing a market like that. And also that because contractors know that the government is like this, projects, it is actually considered in government circles that a project going only 150% over budget is considered green, perfectly fine, normal. Because that's the amount that is expected to have delays and overruns, because contractors know that if I make a mistake, I'll just report it to the government. What are they going to do? Fire me and replace me and spend another $1 billion replanning everything? It happens all the time. It's happened with almost every infrastructure plan in every country that has this thing. The only difference in countries is how much the cost ballooned, but they cost always balloon. Yes.
Yeah. So why not improve the bureaucratic process, right? Better bureaucrats, better overseeing. Why not focus on that instead of giving up?
Because there's a fundamental difference that I just explained. There are companies with just as big bureaucracies as countries. They run it more efficiently because they know that it's not a fundamental it's not a fundamental problem in bureaucracy. It's a fundamental problem of people knowing that the government won't default on its debt, it won't go bankrupt like a private company would. If a rail company builds a rail line, it goes 10 years over budget, 300%, investors are going to leave, the company's going to collapse. The government happens, it's not going to happen. They're just going to, because the country is so many more things beyond the single rail project that it's just not going to collapse over this one minor thing, but it will probably end up going into debt, which is my second point that I will get into. And it does connect to the deficit spending. It's the fact that deficit spending is dangerous. Look, when countries do this thing, they almost always they choose to go into debt to fund these infrastructure projects. Why? Because they know that eventually the money will return because the economy will grow because of the infrastructure, and they'll get the money back. But this is incredibly dangerous. One, I've already explained why the money would have come to them anyways via private investment, and because the government's job is to invest in things that private companies would never build in the first place or would never make free. And the fact that taking on debt, even if you pay it back, incurs penalties, higher interest rates. There is always a chance that you are very fiscally responsible. You pay off your debt every year, and then suddenly the coronavirus happens, and suddenly all your plans are thrown into chaos. You have to borrow even more money, and eventually you have to default, even though you were fiscally responsible. And these are risks that a country who is responsible for everyone, not just its own shareholders, has to worry about. And since this is more important than revenue, it's not something that a government should take risks on just for economic growth. I'll close by saying that the reason you should support this motion is that it's more fiscally responsible for a government that represents all to only invest in things that the private companies won't, and that deficit spending is too dangerous for a country. Thank you.
we've heard a lot about Keynesian economics and economics, but I don't think we've clearly established what we're talking about. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about what is Keynesian economics. So first of all, kind of the idea behind Keynesian economics is we've got these economic downturns in capitalism, which kind of destroy the economy a little bit. But the remedy for that is the idea, during those downturns, the government is going to spend a bunch of money on stuff like infrastructure and all the stuff that opposition has mentioned. And also the central bank has monetary policy where it lowers interest rates during those downturns, and nowadays also buys up government bonds. And I'm not sure if there's other securities involved, but at least government bonds to kind of infuse money into the economy and get more of a kick out of it. So okay, now onto the other stuff, and this stuff is going to be relevant in the other stuff. So first, what about the roads? So well, roads are, of course, there is a profit incentive for roads. You can have toll roads. You can have roads as a PR stunt for your company. These things do happen. Now, what about the schools? Well, the schools, a similar kind of deal. You can have student loans, and for exceptional students, you also have grants, because that works in the interest of the university, because that gives them more PR to have more students and more donations later. And we're not even talking about only the exceptional students, because even the perhaps not super exceptional students donate back to the university and therefore deserve a chance if the university thinks, that's going to be a net positive for me. So, okay, now on to the second point. So, why is the free market such an incredible thing in the world? Yeah, we all know that kind of basically in the last ages, free market economies have done way better than any other economies, and we think that is due to a few mechanisms. Well, the idea that in a free market, investment flows where it is most productive, and it flows to where it is most productive because there is competition between investors to find the thing that produces the most value for them and invest in that. Why would they want the thing that produces the most value? Because they can get something back. They can get a dividend back. If they invest in a company and that company makes a toll road and that company makes a profit, the best location for that is going to be get the most investment, because competition drives investors to invest in those things. And that's why we have the best investment under capitalism. So why does Keynesian economics kind of ruin this? So like I already said in my POI, these kind of government we're first going to talk about a little bit about that. We acknowledge our opening point, but we can add to that, because government debt it is more of a thing under Keynesian systems, and government debt also crowds out other investment. Why? Because debt is also an investment. So if you have a lot of government debt, then there's less investment available for other useful projects, and therefore there's less free market growth under their side of the house. But this is not the only thing that kind of messes messes with investment, because Keynesian economics also messes with the government investment. Why? This was my POI. The short term, Keynesian economics demands that you come up with projects on the short term. Why? Because it's if you come up with projects long in advance to invest in, then they might not be relevant, and at the time you have a recession. So when you get indicators of a recession, which is usually not that long in advance, because if we know the market crashes tomorrow, the market crashes today, because that is a negative signal to future. Yes.
Yeah. So in the last few years, we're completely unstable, and we had like recession after recession after war after war. We can sort of reach conclusion that now every time there will be a recession, we should manage it and be prepared for it.
Well, we say that kind of this preparation for it is kind of impossible, right? Because the projects that I mentioned are they might not be relevant by the time there is a recession. And we also think, yeah. So now onto my further. So where was I? Okay, so now onto the idea of kind of the stable monetary policy. Well, on their side of the house, the central bank switches interest rates and other monetary stuff around to kind of fit with the economic circumstances. Well, what does this create? This kind of creates asset bubbles. Why? Because in an environment of low interest rates, you have an incredible incentive to invest because the cost of capital has become extremely low due to an artificial signal from the central bank. Therefore, you have lots of misinvestment during these periods of economic boom, and and so that messes with the kind of magic of the free market, all of this. So, and why is this all so important? Well, we kind of forget how important good investment and economic growth are. Why? Because we all take for granted that we're not living in the Stone Ages anymore, but we get there by proper investment in infrastructure, in factories, in good corporations, and their side really messes with that. And therefore, perhaps instead of being in space 100 years from now, we're still here 100 years from now, or perhaps less drastic scenarios, which are probably more realistic. But I hope because they mess so much with the free market that you throw the government back.
Thank you for that kind speech. And I invite the member of opposition.
Okay, my speech will start in 3, 2, 1, now. Before my point, first come to summary rebuttal to the closing government. We have a point like the point is the free market is great, it's more productive. I didn't get the reason why it is better than the Keynesian economic, because let me compare these two economic rules. For Keynesian, starting from the Keynesian, and their point is like, well, free market is great because there's more company will join in and there will be a competition between them. However, there's more. This one does more harm than good. The reason why is there's because it's free markets is less limited by the government, less ruled by the government, so they get more risky. They got more risk. It's so risky. It's more like it become a bubble, and the bubble could blow up any time. So what will happen when the bubble blows up? There will cause inflation. There will cause a lower employment rate. That's more harm to the citizen in the country. So it's great for the government to have strong intervention to the economic policy. So my point will come to three. I have three main points. One for the efficiency. Second is Keynesian economic fit the best because it follow the real-time events. Third, it's better for government to take some risk. So let's come to my first point. So we believe that Keynesian economic policy is it could be work efficiently. So yeah, OG mentioned, we got clashes to OG, like they're saying it's not efficient, but we are saying this is the most efficient way. The reason why is what they focus is like take the infrastructure for example. What they are focusing is on the single infrastructure, but what we are on is for the overall infrastructure. Let's take transport for example. What they are saying is a specific building or specific bridge, but what we prioritize is the planning, transport planning, city urban planning that should be done by the government. And sorry later. So we prioritize the overall efficient. The overall efficient could be achieved by the Keynesian economic policy. And so how does it work? Government is a grid system. They have their own working procedure to ensure every step works right. So they could track during the whole project. They could ensure we follow the step and we follow the right way. So that would be extremely beneficial to the quality and the efficiency during the construction process. So why this is important? Because infrastructure is related to everyone living in the country. They are could be keep citizens safe. Sorry later. As a long-term, they have a long-term effect. Without a better quality infrastructure, there will be. Let's take transport for example. There will be more traffic jam. There will be more traffic accident. People will get injured from it. That is definitely not good for the citizen. So what we are doing is we provide better planning by the government. We provide government intervention in the whole procedure, and that improve the efficiency. Efficiency improves, so the cost could be minimized. Because we are working more efficient, we are spending less time than the case in economics. So that is the reason why we could work more efficient. Like thinking from the counter example, what happened from the Keynesian economic policy. There are some sorry later would competitive for this position, and government need to spend money, spend time to, for example, cover a bid. Then there will be a large amount of company competitive for this role, and government need to spend lots of money or time to choose the company works best for them. That is waste time and waste money, and government government intervention is really less than Keynesian economy. So this is really not going to be helpful for the overall city planning for the citizen. So that's the reason why we believe Keynesian economy works better than Hayken, and we prove by why our effect is the most impactful. And let's come to my the second point is why. Sorry, later I need to finish my point first. Why Keynesian is the best fit as they are following the real time. The events happen in the real time. Let's take the monetary policy as example, or other quantitative easing. Government are making decisions as the events happen based on the events happen on the real time. Why government is the best role to make this change? Because they are government, they are chosen by their citizens. Which means they are recognized by their citizens. So they have their well ruled. They have a perfect procedure to ensure every step works right. So that's the reason why they could change interest rate, they could change monetary policy to ensure everything works okay, to ensure the employment rate, to ensure this is the best method suiting the real time. However, if we have a constant monetary policy, what will happen? That will be it may not suit for in the real time. The interest rate, the career, the employment rate, that will be have a significant effect to the people. The employment rate will be decreased. The money, there will be inflation happen. So this is related to everyone living in this country. So we need to make change following based on the events happening in the real time. Third point, why is better? why sometimes it's better to take risk for the government. As I said before, but government is recognized by the citizen. So it's based on trust, and citizens trust them, and they believe it works great for them. So that is the deficit spending, and sometimes it's great. It's a great by the citizen, and it's Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker, for that fine speech, and invite the government whip to close the case for government.
Can I request not to be
doing my speech in 3, 2, 1. I'll do the same as the CG whip, and I will first address the efficiency clash. I think that one of the first things is, like, you talk about the fact that it's like costs less for the best quality. Corporations inherently are driven by profit. That is their main incentive. They desire that profit. They have less incentive over the government to be able to prioritise the citizens and the nation. This means that they are more likely to try and cut the corners and try and get the higher profits and increase that profit margin without inherently focusing specifically on the quality aspect. They will do just enough to make sure that they do not receive excessive public backlash, but they will not be trying to push for inherently better quality. I think the other thing is to do with like what my partner brought in their speech was to discuss like why on a wider scale our side of the house have a higher rate of efficiency. And I think this is to do when you look at something on the wider scale of the entire country. Yes, you can argue on your side of the house that there are bureaucratic issues within the government. However, there are also issues and a bureaucratic nature within corporations. And when you want to look at something on the wider scale of how things are going to interact with each other, if you keep it all within individual corporations, they then have to deal with that they have to deal with that on an intertwined nature and try and deal with each other's different systems, and you're more likely to have more complicated bureaucratic issues on that wider scale. Yes, if you want to take up here on that, to opening.
We're the only house that brought mechanisms that show the advantages of one model by the other in a efficient, fast and cheaper production.
Okay, I was about to move on to the OG case, so that sort of works, so I will address that. I think that, first of all, I think one of the things you bring in of why yours is more likely to be fast and more likely to be efficient is the aspect of competition on your side of the house. I think that competition does still exist on our side of the house, because I think that neither side of the debate is entirely exclusive on whether or not there is going to be any degree of government intervention, or whether or not there will be any degree of free market. The free market still exists, the government still has to compete against the free market, and the free market is still competing against each other on our side of the house. Therefore, there is still reason for the government to have to push to be better and have that high quality. I think that the government, again, I can go back to the incentives of the government and versus corporations. Government has an incentive to try and push for their citizens. They want to keep being re-elected in, they want to be able to stay in power, and to do that they have to be seen in a good light. They need good public perception. They also need good global perception, because to be able to have international relations and keep that alive, stable economies are first of all very important for that, and second of all, good public perception on a global scale is important. I think when you talk about like fiscal responsibility, you talk about keeping the taxes low but spend the money, the projects take time. The corporations also have to spend the money that they are earning, but they also have a more difficult opportunity to try and get the money. They have to be more well-standing, they need to have the money in the first place. They also are more incentivized if it looks as though that money isn't there to cut ties with a project, because they don't have the same degree of public pressure to keep them on track and to keep them accountable. They have the ability to be able to pull away. I think privatization as a whole is unbeneficial to a nation. The companies are likely to get accredited when they do things well. If they are very efficient, then companies are praised for this. But when companies do things badly, take like the American healthcare private system, and that's run really badly, you don't really see the private healthcare, like the system, being mentioned at all in the conversation. You see criticism of the government for allowing it to be a private system. I think the comment I made earlier about the corporations more likely to abandon also covers your thing on the dangers of deficit spending. So I'll move on then to your closing. The opening speaker discusses the fact that government bonds infuse money into the economy. I think that is important. On our side of the house, where in the information slide, it says that this type of economic policy is more likely to take money out so they can have buy government bonds, which you have yourself admitted is infusing the economy with more money and is making an economy more stable. You yet again bring up competition in regards to the free market. I think that has already been addressed in the sense of it exists A, on both sides of the house, and B, government has to compete against other things. You talk about the concept of grants as a way to help people, and the fact that even on corporate sides where there is paid systems, that there is opportunities for people. I think our side of the house takes this on the concept of scale. I think that the grants can, yes, be great for the, I use the word like, really, I can't remember, like really excellent students that are really highly achieving. But on our side of the house, we've got the money going into infrastructure like education, which is funding better quality state education. This means a wider range of people have access to a higher quality of education. So I think when it comes to that particular clash, I think this side of the house takes that. I think the you talk about the fact that corporations are more likely to have good investments. I don't think you inherently prove why this is likely. I don't think you actually explain why free markets are more likely to make good investments. I think people, inherently other people choosing to make the investments, I don't think it is, their choices being made are as likely to be good investments or bad investments. I think it is very difficult to say that. I don't think you prove why you believe that on your side of the house one is going to be better, or why ours is inherently going to be worse. I think that my partner's speech tries to follow that. I think the governments will actually are more likely to make the better investments because they have a wider range of people to be able to look into things. They have more research available. They have people who are doing it so constantly because it is such a key job of the government that they are more likely to be able to see the faults and be able to pick up on it because they have the numbers of people and the finances to do so in a way that singular corporations cannot because they do not have the same scope. I think that, again, under government, the company motivations on your side, on the government side of the house, is inherently not really addressed of why these corporations are more likely to have good intentions over governments. I think we have done a decent job at trying to prove to you why we think that is unlikely due to the fact that corporations have a profit incentive and do not have the same public perception incentive that a government has. I think that, the government requires trust, as my partner brought up in her speech, and that this trust is very key to why that they are under our system, there's more likely to be better investments made and a more stable and lasting economy. Because that is something that the free market doesn't do. The free market isn't stable. It changes constantly, and this means that also the corporations are likely to pull out of deals if they believe that as the free market changes, and therefore they no longer have profit.